Okay, this is day two of Mishlei 14.4. And we'll review. And then, like I said, the main goal here is to get chidushim. The good news is it seems like there's a lot, okay, a lot more than I expected. I can't say it's bad news, but I think there's gonna be a lot of subtle ideas or like a lot of feeling of like, what are they getting at? So we're gonna have to do some work, which is good. Okay, so quick review. Pasuk says, "Be'in alafim evus bar v'rav tuos b'chuach shor." So we translated it as with no cattle, the trough or the manger or the granary is clean. Actually, I think granary is not for our translation. With no cattle, the trough is clean, but much v'rav tuos b'chuach shor. But much produce is through the strength of an ox. So our questions were: is the first half Bein alafim evus bar, is that a good thing or a bad thing or a neutral thing? Okay. And it's a little difficult also because you could translate it as the trough is clean or the granary is empty, right? So that's like a little ambiguous there. What's the connotation of the evus being bar, clean as opposed to dirty, or empty as opposed to full? Ariel's question isn't as obvious. What's the chidush? And each half is arguably redundant since it could be inferred from the other half. So I actually saw some Mepharshim do want to say, who said this? Well, we'll probably see later on. Some want to say that ain here does not mean without. It means the word own, okay, which means strength. So some want to say own, or like the ain alafim with the strength of an ox, evus bar, the granary is full. Oh, wait, sorry. Hold on. The granary. No, sorry. Hold on a second. Alafim evus bar. No. I'm mixing two versions. Scratch what I said. Okay. All right. Let's go on. Okay. How are the two halves opposites? The second half should say with cattle the trough is dirty, or the first half should say without cattle there are no crops. Why does it emphasize the strength of an ox as opposed to just an ox? I guess. Who's the audience? What is the practical takeaway beyond the specific benefit mentioned in the pasuk? Rabbi Moskowitz question: what is the subject of the pasuk? Minor question: why use these terms for oxen? If they're synonyms, is there a reason why each one is paired with the other half? If they mean different things, what does each one mean? Why is oxen plural in the first half, singular in the second half? And then the Meiri's question is, what's the derech nester? So I just want to point out methodologically before we start, before we do new ideas. Actually, fine. Let me review my old ideas first. Okay, so Ezra and Isaac were both developing approaches that this has to do with like investment. That there's like a cost benefit analysis when you have something like this, that in order to get more crops, you're going to have to like, deal with the, with cleaning up after the ox or feeding it. But we didn't quite develop that. I guess the closest we got was the point that people get so caught up in the abstract evaluation of the price that they don't actually consider the value in a real way. So to them, it's like, I'm not going to pay like, $1,000 for this. And they're so caught up in like just imagining themselves paying the money that they don't really like think about the value in a way that they can, factor into how it's going to enrich their lives. Yeah, Isaac?
Yeah, I'd say it's like the reverse of your idea, actually.
Okay.
It's like I think one type of way that person might be operating is, focusing on, the upside,
Yeah.
and ignoring the existence of the downside.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people can also sometimes do the opposite, where they focus on the downside and ignore the upside.
Right.
I think that's really what this is.
Okay, yeah. I still struggle to like formulate this in a way that's not obvious, though. I mean,
I have an example, if that will help. So you gave the example of having good food. Good food.
Good food, yeah.
Yeah. So I will never cook good food for myself because I don't like the pain of having to deal with dishes and buy ingredients and everything like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on whether that's a worthwhile trade-off or not. But but I think that's I think a person can just be so overwhelmed by. I think.
Okay, so I think what you're saying is really Chaim's idea, which is which is the difference between the Atzel and the Baal Taiva, according to Sadigon, is the Atzel, even when he has Taiva for something, he can't see past the immediate pain and conflict. And then the Baal Taiva, so the lure of the immediate pleasure is going to overshadow any like long-term consequence. So I think that yours goes well with Chaim. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'd say I think one of the things that the pasuk is adding is that I think it the trough being dirty is obviously so small in comparison to having a lot to produce.
Right.
So it's like
you're getting a lot more. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I have an example of this also that I know there are some people who will not try new foods because so in my world, like, okay, you try the food and the worst thing that can happen is you just don't like the way it tastes. But the best thing that can happen is you have a lifelong food that you love, So, but there are people who like the thought of having the experience of having bad taste in their mouth just like is intolerable. And like, to me, I'm like you could be getting like this great thing that's going to enrich your life, but like, no, it's like a more extreme version than Isaac's thing. Yeah. So you know what that is? I've been very close to that. Okay, I'll tell you what that is. You know what else can happen? You can also have a lion outside when you walk out of your door. No, just to flesh this out. The pasuk in Mishlei says, Ari bachutz, Amar Atzel, Ari bachutz, Berchovas Eretzeach, I think. Hold on a second here. I think this is in the 20s. 22:13. Amar Atzel, Ari bachutz, Besok Berchovas Eretzeach. Okay, which literally means there's a lion out. The lazy person says there's a lion outside. I'm going to be murdered in the streets. Okay, and so the idea is the main idea of that, according to the way we've learned it in the past, is that the Atzel can't tolerate immediate pain, right? But what he does is he warps his mind to rationalize his laziness to the point where it is like extreme and improbable, because lions are not roaming around outside, okay? And the Eretzeach, I'll be murdered, okay, is like an extreme form of this. And so the equivalent would be like, I'm not going to go outside because I'm going to get hit by a plane, And so if you have some weird medical issue where like you have a very like sensitive gag reflex or whatever that you'll like throw up or whatever, fine, so that's for you. But I think that people envision themselves like horrendous suffering if I try this thing and I don't like it, And I think that's this. Yeah. That's what I gotta say about that. Yeah. Yeah. If I ever witness this happening, if I ever witness you throwing up from trying a new food, then I'll concede to your point. Yeah. Okay. So Ariel had an idea, which I actually want to set aside because I think Rashi is in line with your idea. Yeah. Okay. So we'll set that aside. So then there's my idea, which was that there's the means, the ends, and then the annoying byproducts of the means. And Mishlei doesn't need to tell you that you need to do the means to get the ends, because that's obvious. But there is a fantasy that I can have the means without dealing with the annoying byproduct of the means. And because cleaning up after the ox doesn't directly produce the crops, then the person that allows the fantasy room to flourish. And it's like, I if only I could have these crops without cleaning up after my ox. And that as long as you are attached to that fantasy, then you're going to be in conflict, and you're also going to make bad decisions if you choose to opt out of those means to get the greater success. Okay, so I want to start with the harder interpretations here, and what makes them more difficult is that it almost sounds like they're not saying anything. Okay, actually, let's start with the hardest, which is the Radak. Oh, you don't have this in your Torah's Chaim. So the Radak says, "Be'ein alafim evus bar, b'makom she'ein sham shvarim ha'evus hu naki." Okay, we have to see how he's learning avus. Without, in a place with no oxen, the avus is clean or empty. She'afilu teven eno matzoi lakan. There's not even straw, right? That is found here. And he says, avus is hu harefes shel bakar. It is the cattle cowshed. Okay. V'rav tvus yavu lebali hashvarim ki yavdu sadosehem. But abundant produce comes to those who own oxen because they will work their fields. So I read that, I was like, what? So I think the key phrase here is without shvarim, the cow shed is empty even of straw. Even straw you can't find there. So can we figure out if he's saying anything?
4-rank ego mind.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it almost sounds like he's not saying anything, right?
Yes.
I had an idea as I was walking here. Let's think about it for a second. Even straw you will not find there. Oh man, it slipped. I had an idea. It's hard to even, I mean, he says nucky. That seems to be emphasizing the cleanliness part, right? Yeah.
Could it be that things that look pristine, especially given that this thing's function is not necessarily
Interesting.
pristine,
Yeah.
might give a person the idea that this is a really great thing.
Yeah.
But like, just as an observer, you might come into like an office and be like, oh, it's like not a messy office, so it must be like a really functioning office.
Okay.
But just because the office is messy doesn't necessarily mean that it's not functioning properly.
Okay.
Or the reverse.
Okay, good. That's actually an idea that's better than whatever idea slips from my mind. Is that there's a fantasy of pristineness equaling goodness or success. Like it almost reminds me. This is a weird example, but like the people. I don't know how common this is around here, but I remember growing up as a kid, and like there were certain rich people who had living rooms that were like never used. And like everything was pristine. There were even people who like have they keep the plastic on their furniture, and you're like, what? Like I understand if you want to if you like cleanliness, but you also like using something, so you make sure that it's clean. But like the people who they're valuing the pristine state more than the actual use of the thing, or the people who like. What was it? I didn't hear what he said.
These two guys are squirming.
Oh yeah, I didn't want to call them out. Or the people who will buy a new car and they just won't use it, or won't take it out. It's like I understand if you're a car collector, like Jerry Seinfeld or whatever. Like then that's its own like.
You understand that?
I understand. I think it's crazy, but I understand he's not. You're not going to tell. Jerry Seinfeld doesn't fake himself out to think that he's using his cars.
Okay.
But like there are people who have a thing and they'll never use it. Like people who have maybe another example of this is I'm sure there's equivalents in like the good china, like the good good dishware that is just never used. What's the point of it then? Yeah.
And I think it also even winds up being like a bad neurosis that comes like nobody can ever touch this thing.
Yeah.
Crazy about it, to the point where it winds up doing a lot of like emotional and psychological harm, where the person's so crazy over this thing that then they
withhold the benefit, right? Yeah. Okay, that's a good idea.
So how does it apply here?
So here, I think what Sean's saying is that this guy just is so like neurotic about the image of a clean barn or whatever, that like. He's like, there's not even a strand of straw, and meanwhile, it's nice, applaud that you got a clean barn, but like your income is going to be way less because you're not using the shore.
But if he has no ox, so what?
No, the no ox is what allows him to maintain a clean barn.
The no ox. Meaning he's purposely not getting ox.
Yeah, he's purposely not getting an ox. Here's another example: is that there are, and I'm not making judgments on particular decisions about when to have kids, but I think that there are like couples who value like the pristineness of their we're in our 20s with a clean home and income, and we can go out and have martinis and stuff there's this image of and they don't want to have a kid because they know that once they have a kid, then they're gonna that image is gonna dissolve. They're gonna have to deal with we got diapers here and we can't see our friends and all this stuff, and that is a real cost. But it is a if you're clinging to this pristine state, then you're going to be blind to the benefits that you can get if you are willing to get dirty. Okay, good idea. Okay, so next is the Meiri. Okay, and the Meiri style here follows the style elsewhere, where he first defines the words. Okay, so he says yesh mefarshim bar milashon lishbor bar. So he's taking bar not as empty but as foodie. Okay, Ratzlomer tevua hanimreches v'hanivreres min hateven v'hakash. Okay, so produce. I know meroach is a produce term. I just forgot what it meant. Anyone know what it means? Meroach.
Oh, I think it's sifting.
Sifted? Okay, that makes sense here. Okay, no, that would make sense here. So sifted and also borer, right? Nivrar. Min hatev vakash. In other words, he's saying like the grain that is that the straw and chaff has been sifted away. Okay, so he's saying that you will have you'll have usable grain, let's call it. Okay. Umilas be'ain moshechas asma v'acheres ima. And be'ain applies to both halves. Klomar, be'ain alafim ein evus bar. It's saying without oxen, then you will not have grain in your granary. Okay, the evus hu ha'otzar shmesimin bo hatvua. Evus means a granary. Okay, so without oxen, you will not have food in your granary. I think it's granary, right? There's no I in there. Granary. Okay. Pasuk ibusa. Okay. Valafim pirush. I wasn't asking you.
I know, but I had a funny image of like old ladies in like a silo. It's a granary.
Oh, that is a funny image. All right. So alafim is pirushu shvarim shgar alafecha. Okay. So here's the thing. B'hu he'ara lihishtadol ba'avodas ha'adama. Okay. This is a lesson that you should strive in working the land. Okay, this is true for every acquisition. It's just using this as an example. It's saying, if you don't prepare for yourself oxen to work the land, you will not have a granary of produce. With many oxen, right or left? Right. Lifamim b'makom riboy. Okay, koach could mean abundance. Okay, so the question here is, what is he teaching us? Right, this sounds obvious. So just to say it again, right? Without oxen, your granary will be empty. But if you have many oxen, you'll have a lot of produce, right? That was what I was trying to get here with the question about you can infer each half from the other. Each half is arguably redundant since it could be inferred from the other half. So that reading, the way the Meiri is reading it right now, is like just direct opposites.
I mean, without oxen, your granary will be empty, but with oxen,
you'll have a lot of stuff. Yeah, right. Sounds obvious.
Well, when he says in It says
yeah, you're not going to have
like he didn't say you're gonna have an empty oatsar, so you're not gonna have an oatsar at all. I don't know if that's just too nitpicky or not, but
I'm not sure. Yeah,
maybe it's like the cycle of business. In order to make money, you need to spend money.
Yeah, I was thinking something similar to that. Yeah.
So like if you have like, let's say, one ox, you'll have a limited amount of granary and like grain to feed your ox.
Right.
But if you work the ox, you'll make more, and then you'll be able to afford more, and then you'll be able to put more in there.
Okay, yeah.
It like multiplies.
Okay, yeah. So I was trying to say I'm gonna maybe there is a word for this, but and I don't know if I thought of this idea from the Meiri, but I'm just gonna throw this idea out there. There's a term which is a miser, right? A miser is someone who can't bring himself to spend money. Okay, I think there is also a type of miserliness that comes from investing what you're making uniquely. In other words, let's say the nafkamina would be, let's say you have a person who inherited a lot of money and still doesn't want to spend it. Okay, so that's like one type of miserliness where they just have this weird relationship with money where they just can't spend it. Let's say there's this other person who like makes $100 and says, well, I made this, I'm not going to invest it back into my business, So I think there is like a certain type of thing where like the person, because he wants to view this as the fruit of his success, there's something that like prevents him from, he can't bring himself to spend it because that's somehow like in his mind translating into like diminishing his success, of like taking this the money that he made and like he can't put it into the business again.
Yeah.
But the real businessman views it in terms of the value. It's kind of related to the price versus value thing, that he'll say like, yeah, I want to be successful, so this is giving me capital and I can like invest it to get more success.
I mean, I think there's I don't know if you touched on it. Yeah, I don't know, maybe it's slipped on that, but like there's another aspect of like people who make money, they just spend it for themselves.
Yeah.
But what you should be doing is you should allocate like a percentage of the money you make to put it back into your business.
Right.
And
yeah.
then you can spend it.
Yeah. The example of this that Johnny told me about, I don't watch Mr. Beast, but apparently, Mr. Beast is the biggest YouTuber, or at least single YouTuber, I think, individual YouTuber, maybe in general. I think his model was, in addition to researching like what videos are successful, he invested all of his money into videos, right? Like he didn't like, and I don't know to what extent he still does this, but like all of the like millions of dollars that he makes, he invests into videos that cost millions of dollars to make. And then that just like compounds the success, So he didn't have that emotion of like, I want to like ride the success and like just luxuriate, Yeah, Sean?
Yeah, no,
okay. Yeah, Ezra?
Yeah, it's interesting how he says imlo yachinlo.
Yeah, I noticed that as well, right? If he doesn't prepare for himself, shvarim.
Right. So I mean, I don't really know, but it could be he's like doesn't want to put in the work of getting shvarim, even though it's going to make him a lot more money.
Yeah, right. And if we say that, then I feel like that would fall into one of the ideas that we've said earlier, which is fine. But yeah. Okay, so let's see what he says now. He goes on and he gives a different reading. He says, "O pirusha tokef v'koach mamish." Oh, sorry, that was part of the last one. Or he says, "Koach" could mean just literal strength. Okay, v'yesh mafarshim pasuk below chesron. Some interpret the pasuk without a missing word. Okay, so in the first reading, he put the word "ein" into both halves. So he says, or you could read it the way it's written. Pirush bar naki. Okay, bar means empty, or clean. I mean, uminian nikayon shinayim, nikayon shanim. I'm not sure. Uvlashon Talmud naki minachasav. O lashon ha'adam lo tesham shetargumu lo tavor. Okay, so desolate or empty. The evus hu evus mamish. Uhu makom she'oklos sham habehemos. So evus could be a trough where the animals feed. V'chamor evus balav. Klamar be'in alafim nishar ha'evus bar v'naki v'reik v'na'ur. V'chozeh ha'ar lihizahar mimidas ha'atzlus lihishtalu b'kinyanim. Because that's like the laziness idea.
Let's try definition of what we're saying.
Can you try?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so with what we were saying, like applying it to like maybe like learning.
Yeah.
Let's say. So like what compounds in your learning is like maybe like Bikias or like
Oh, okay.
how to read or whatever.
Yeah.
And then like the quality of your learning will be exponential, like you have just a lot more facts in front of you.
Yeah.
And you can use it to build your
okay, that's good. I want to use that. I want to use that and go back to a Derek Nigler for a second. I don't know if I got this from a specific one of the Mefarshim or if this just came into my mind, or if I just want to go on a Hishtadlus rant. So I don't know how many of you have heard my Hishtadlus rant before, but I really don't like the term Hishtadlus the way that it's used in modern talking about like Hashgacha and stuff. Like you have to put in your Hishtadlus because I think that the way that people talk, like, yes, I agree that you can't rely on a miracle and you have to act in order for God to meet you halfway, let's say, right? Okay. But I think the way people talk about Hishtadlus treats it like a magical mechanism where you like show your effort and then God will respond to you demonstrating your effort. And the example I was thinking of this morning is like, let's say you have let's say you're moving house, okay, and you have to like move all of your possessions from one house to another house, okay. So if I told you, how are you going to get your furniture from one place to another? You have to put in your hishtadlus, and then the furniture will move. You'd be like, why are you using the word hishtadlus? Like, yeah, you have to strive, but you actually have to move the stuff there, So I think there is like a childish way of viewing activities, either in the natural realm or in the hashgacha realm, where like, how do you get the crops? By like doing the action that is like the crop producing action. Like in other words, I'm not expressing myself clearly. It's like you have to view yourself. You have to the only way to get the crops is by actually using your ox to plow. Okay, then you'll get and planting and then harvesting. Like then you'll get the crops. It's not just the going through the motions, right? So I think the same thing with the bikios. I think that I think we generally recognize that like that the more facts you have, then the more equipped you will be for svara, okay? And the greater breadth you have of many areas of halacha, then the better your intuition will be. But I think people, when it comes time to sit down and have a B'kiyos Seder, I think they relate to it magically. Like my Rebbeim tell me that I have to do B'kiyos to become a Lamdan, So I'm going to put in my B'kiyos time and then like get Lamdan stuff. But I think the more you actually do this, the more you actually experience how like, oh, I'm working on a sugya and like I remember learning somewhere that there's like some like obscure fact that I wouldn't have encountered in the text in front of me, and like that helps my svara. Or like I've seen how a certain area of halacha operates in a drastically different sugya, and that's going to be like a model for my intuition here. Then you'll like it'll be real to you that the pius benefits you, you know. So I don't know. You just reminded me of that. I think it's a good shot that you're giving. I'm not saying that my idea is necessary for your shot, but just wanted to say it. Yeah. And David?
Something else that before you were saying seems similar to me with feels like atomic habits and working on habits. That it's always important to start with doing something small, just like doing it, like doing a thing in principle or doing something small of it. But you need to graduate from there.
Right.
As much as you can start off, and it is good to be doing it a small bit in part, like a small part of it. If you just stick with that, then you're not actually doing the thing. You just go to the gym for 2 minutes,
right?
And go home. It's a good start, but if you just go 2 minutes,
right. So you're saying that that's falling into the going through the motions or checklist, the opposite way where like you don't actually make it into a thing that has results. You just want to check off the box. Yeah.
Like, yeah, and like a feeling of that certain thing. I also see within the pasuk, and also like I do have myself a cow, an ox to gain myself stuff.
Yeah. See, I have an ox. Like, well, why am I not getting crops? Yeah. Right.
Whatever extent it feels like, oh, like I'm in the right area.
Yeah.
The person is in the right area. He is actually getting himself an ox. He doesn't have nothing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it does require at some point moving past that beginning.
Yeah. Right. I have an example, and I'm saying this not to criticize the person who I'm going to give the example about, but it's I think it's an example of this type of magical thinking. Is when I was in yeshiva, then the popular career to go into was law, right? Was becoming a lawyer. And so a guy who's older than I am said that like he didn't know what he wanted to do for a living. So everyone advised him, oh, go to law school, it'll open up doors. So he went to law school, and became a lawyer. And it's like, where are these doors that are supposed to open, And it was just like this thing where I'm not criticizing. I'm not saying that he didn't look for a job, but like I think he just expected it to like magically like yield jobs, like the jobs will come raining down. But yeah. Okay, let's see what the Meiri's derech nister is. I haven't actually read this yet. U'v'derech nister kara hashlemim alafim v'shor. So it's calling perfected people, oxen and whatever the difference between alafim and shor is. Shehem etzel zrias hachachma u'ktirasa kishvarim ba'avodas adama. Okay, so they are regarding planting and harvesting chachma, they are like the oxen. Okay, they can produce a lot. Af ki yesh bahem remez mitzad hamilus b'limud of iyun. There's also a remez in the word choice, a remez to limud in iyun. Va'alaf chachma, right? So alaf is in Aramaic means limud, right? But it apparently means this in Hebrew in Eov as well. I will teach you chachma. Teshuri mirosh amana. Teshuri, okay, is like alluding to shore. Okay. V'hu nimshach l'masha l'fanav. V'kvanabo behedar hachachamim. So he says in absence of chachamim, when there are no chachamim, evus hatalmidim mishulal min hashlemus. Then the I don't know how he's using evus here. The evus of talmidim is void of perfection. V'chein tamshich kol inyan. That's what the rest of the inyan continues on that. V'af razal darshu hukein b'makom she'ein talmidei chachamim mitzuim ein hora yotzas kalaha. That's actually what Rashi says verbatim. That in a place where there are no talmidei chachamim, then hora will not be found to culminate in halacha. Okay, so what is this saying here? So pshat wise, he's saying without chachamim, then there's going to be a lack of perfection among talmidim. Okay, and the Chazal say it specifically with hora and halacha. So what's the chidush here? It's weird.
Well, how that fit into their, maybe I'm forgetting how derech nister works.
Yeah.
Isn't it supposed to be like a similar?
That's my theory of the derech nister, is that it's applying the same exact idea to this. So I think it does. I think according to the Meiri, remember his derech nigla was, his first derech nigla was without oxen you have no otsar filled with produce, and without and with oxen you do. So that seems to translate pretty directly, which is that without perfected people, then you're going to have a lack of perfection in the society, of like the Talmidei Chachamim in general, and with the Chachamim, then you'll have that.
Well, now both sides sound obvious.
Yeah, I know, that's the problem. Yeah.
Did we not? Maybe I forgot, but did we not explain that?
Well, the closest we came was like the Ox-Filth thing, I think. No, that was the second one. was, what did we say? With the, yeah, I'm mixing up the ideas here. Yeah, Isaac.
I'm gonna just throw something out that might help us think about it. People who think that they can just like do the research themselves and then come up with, and then understand areas. You know, like I'll try saying that again. Did you hear? You know, I'm assuming you didn't hear me.
Do the research in areas. That's the last thing I heard.
Yeah, just people who think they can just look into it, like things themselves and figure things out without the guidance of a chacham.
Oh man, your audio is getting so messed up. Yeah, yeah. You can type into the chat. I'll read the chat. Yeah. So I don't know if I'm just going off of what little I heard from Isaac, but I do think that there is a mistake. I don't know if this is what you're saying. There's a mistake that the only difference between having chachamim, like perfected people, and just regular Talmidei chachamim is quantitative. Okay, like that. That you have, you know, like a sliding scale. You have like you know, people at the outset who have some chachma, and you have like the really perfected people. And it sounds like what the Meiri is saying is no, like this is the difference between, you know, like the difference between plowing yourself and getting whatever harvest you have in your garden versus having like an ox and having like an entire farm. That's not just quantitative. It's like a different level of like income, you know? So it could be that even among the Talmid, there's a certain amount of chachma that will be yielded from Talmidei Chachamim, even without like a leader who's perfected. But the influence that the leader is going to have on those Talmidei Chachamim, I'm not sure how, is going to be like exponential. You know, I'm not sure what it's saying. Yeah,
there's a Pirkei Avos. You know, there was okay. It says Asalach Rav and then Kalach Rav. But there's another Mishnah that says
Asalach Rav Kadesh Tistalek Min HaSafek.
Yeah, I think so. So in that one, I saw someone who said that you should have a lot. You should learn from a lot of different rabbis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right.
I think someone said it's like the Svara.
Uh-huh.
Oh, it's for Svara.
Yeah, it's interesting. If I remember correctly, it's interesting that that's a machlokas about whether learning from many rabbim in Svara is what do you call good for your Svara or bad for your Svara. But yeah, yeah, that's one side. Looks like Isaac got booted from the thing. He started, but he just said people researching them themselves. I think he was in the middle of typing, I would guess, because that's literally the only words that we heard from him. Yeah. Okay, fine. So so this is Stoic Jew in the Meiri. Let me show you one that is that actually spells it out in full. So this is the Rבינו Yona. So he starts off with a derech nigle that I think is very much where I got mine from, and then he goes into derech nister. So Rבינו Yona says be'ein alafim evus bar. So the avus is going to be clean from filth without alafim. The af gamzos, and even with this, tov lebal hasad lisbo shialinu hashvarim al avusam. It's better for the owner of the field to let the oxen spend the night in their barn, even though they dirty the house, because of the benefit that you get from them. Okay. Gam hachachamim, also the chachamim. Here he goes to derech nister. Sifsehem tishmurim, their lips will guard them. That was the previous pasuk. Midaber gedolos lahamon ha'am, from speaking with grandiosity to the masses. The afal pish yodim ma'alas nafsham yeser hahamon, even though they know themselves that they are better than the hamon. Yisbelu divrei, they will tolerate the words of the hamon. V'chi yishku v'yidabru lifnehem shelo kishur kvodem umoram, even when the hamon errs and speaks in front of them in a way that's not befitting their own honor. Lo yiksifu alehem, they won't become enraged at them. V'yisu b'masas ha'am mipnei ha'toelas, and they will tolerate the burden of the because of the benefit. Shiyu divrei tochachasam nishmaim v'shetis hader torasam. They will the word, because the words of their tochacha will be listened to, and their Torah will be glorified. Kibrov am hadras melech, because in an abundance of in a multitude of people is the glory of the king. Sheyisu ha'am b'masa iskem, the people will bear the burden of their asek, of their I think this is their business. That they will be able to devote themselves to thinking about Torah day and night. Like Chazal say, so he quotes this Gemara here in Chulin. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Umer Zo Kegefen, Umazo Kegefen Nimshalah. So this nation of Israel is compared to a geffen, to a grapevine. Zmoros Sheba Elu Balebatim. So the shoots, or they say the branches here, are the Balebatim. Eshkolos, the grapes, Sheba, that are on the branches, Elo Tamid Chachamim. Those are the Tamid Chachamim. Alin Sheba Elu Ameharetz, and the leaves are the Ameharetz, the ignoramuses. Knoknos, that's a fun word. Sheba Elu Rekanim Sheba Israel. What are knoknos? The tendrils of the vine, which do not directly serve the grapes themselves, are the empty ones of the Jewish people. Okay, so what does that mean? So Rashi says, Umazo Yisrael Nimshala Kegefen Gefen Mitzrayim Tasia. That sounds like a pasuk he's quoting. Zmoro Sheba Elu Balebatim. So the branches are the Balebatim. Dima Hazamora Hazo Motzia Lulavin Va'alim Upri. Okay, so this Zmora produces lulavim, and so branches, leaves, and fruit. V'hu ikar hagefen. So the fruit is the ikar of the gefen. Kach balibatim gomle chesed umachazikim midei anim umafazrim mamonim lemalchus bishvil achem umiskaimim al yadam. Okay, so the balibatim are the ones who are gomle chesed. They take care of the poor. They pay off the government on the behalf of their brothers, and they preserve them through this. Alin, the leaves, so those are the ignoramuses, sovlim haruach, they bear the brunt of the wind, umaginim al ha'eshkolos, and they shield the grapes, shelo yakim sherev v'shemesh, so that they don't get stricken by, I forget what sherev is, I think it's, I forgot if that's blight, and then the sun, v'ruchos, and the wind. Kach amiharetz, Chorshim v'zorim v'kotrim masha tamid chachamim ochlim. So the Amiharetz are the ones who like keep the economy going for the tamid chachamim, and then Knoknos is something branches that don't grow stuff. Lo hazimini. Okay, fine. So what is Rבינו Yona using this for? He's saying that we're not for the ignoramuses, for the leaves, then the grapes, the tamid chachamim will not last. Okay. Okay, I know this is long. We'll summarize in a second. Yatu es Rechavam. So this Zakanim advised Rechavam, who is Shlomo's son, Im hayom tihye eved la'am hazeh v'gomer. So Rechavam wanted to, he felt that the people were not giving him proper honor, I think. So he felt that he was a slave to the people. And the Zakanim said, yeah, if you're a slave to the people, and you cater to them, then they're going to respect you and they're going to want to listen to you. But if you lord yourself over them, then they're going to rebel against you. And lo and behold, that's what happened. You tolerate the filth of the oxen because of the benefit. So too Chachamim have to tolerate the burden of people. You're only going to be able to maintain your yeshiva in Olei HaChachma through their help. Okay, so that was a lot of stuff here. But what is he saying? What's his main message?
Suck it up.
Okay.
Is that what he's saying?
Yeah. Can you be more specific?
I just feel like there are certain roles that have a lot of responsibility, and some of them are, garbage responsibilities you're just going to have to deal with in order for the greater objective. Okay. What responsibility though? Like, I think because he's saying that with the coming, right? Yeah. Like he's dealing with a lot of baggage, people's baggage. Okay, from people, right? Yeah, right. Whatever, it's like, I think if someone told me wait, should I not record this? You got that initiative smile. Okay. Yeah. Someone told me that already. Yeah. A lot of his job is a lot of therapy, So you're dealing with, Okay, I think that's actually part of the Rebbe's role. I think he's talking about a different example. I'm going to give an example, but I'm not going to record it. Okay, fine. Yeah. I think when it comes to shul ravs, I'm sure this happens a lot, or poskim, where the Amiharetz just don't give them the kavod that they deserve. And if the Rav were to be makbid on it, then it would
it would create friction, and that would not be serve the long-term interests of the community. So that's what he's saying here.
Did you see the comedian Modi on that? This Sparta versus nationalism.
I can't remember.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. Similarly, I think that Rבינו Yona mentioned one more example here. He's saying, oh yeah, I think there has to be a recognition here that there are different roles that you can play in the system, right? So the chachamim, even though they are the most important in the system, it's kind of like the point we were making about the custodians in schools yesterday, that yeah, there are reikanim. There are people who are just empty. They're not even gomlei chesed. They're just like in the nation, but they are part of the nation. I mean, that's the idea that people have the drasha with the lulav. Like there are people with Torah and masim tovim, and people with Torah and not masim tovim. People with masim tovim and not Torah, and then there are the ravos who just have nothing. And they're all part of the nation. They all play some role in the nation, and you can't treat them lightly because they don't contribute in the maximal way. Okay. Last one. Oh, we don't have a lot of time. No, we did Rashi. Rashi was what Rבינו Yona quoted. Yeah. The Malbim has a very interesting thing, which we're not gonna. Oh man, hold on. Is it too long? I think it's too long. I'll read it anyway. Okay, you could think about it afterwards. Alafim shvarim hamulumadim lacharosh v'lavod es hadama. So the alafim. So remember, this is Malbim. So every word is significant. The alafim are the oxen that are trained to plow and to work the land. Ukishamalamdim hashor lacharosh. Aluf, when you train an ox to plow, it's called an aluf. You don't need to keep him in the barn and fatten him up. He will graze on his own in the meadows. Okay. And then he'll provide produce for you with his strength. But without alafim, without trained oxen, if you don't train them to work the land, then you have to keep them in the manger and fatten them up. And they will not contribute to your produce. They will not only that, they'll diminish your produce. They'll eat up all of the grain that you're getting. Okay, so that's a good mashal, right? So he's saying that there's two uses of oxen. You either train them to plow, and then they don't consume your resources and they produce more resources, or you don't train them and then they just sit there getting fattened up and they consume your resources. So that part I understand. This part I don't understand. Like we explained above, and I couldn't find that, a person needs to be like an ox with a yoke and like a donkey with bearing a burden. A person needs to be trained to plow the field of chachma and the field of tevuna and das. Then he will produce abundant produce, which is the produce of the soul and the fruits of the intellect. Souls are not the ones who do work. The bodies are the ones that do the work. They're the animals. That you train to do avodas Hashem. Uvagan Eden Elyon Ulahoti Rav Tvuos B'Kok Shor Amulumad Musubal Kamoshakazav Alufanu Misovlin. I don't know what that is. But someone who is not a trained ox, which is the avil, who argues with chachma and doesn't learn its ways, he will not farm his land. He'll just waste the food of chachma by sitting at the trough and becoming fat in the tanugos olam hazeh. And he will also not help. He won't help anything. Mazik, he'll harm. Kodesh. So I think this is talking about like cultivating a psyche that is conducive to working in the field of chachma. That in order to produce food, you have to like train your psyche to be like lean and mean and and to not just sit there getting fat from like worldly enjoyments. And not only will that consume less, you will like involve yourself in the pleasures of Olam Hazeh less, but you'll also be channeling your psyche to producing chachma. But if you don't do that, then you're not going to yield any chachma, and you're just going to sit there getting fat and taiva. I don't know exactly how to develop this idea, but I thought that was an interesting mashal. That's answering the question that I think Isaac asked about, like, why does it use different words for aloof and shore? Leave it to the Malbim to do that, you know? Yeah. Okay, we've gone over time, and I don't have time to summarize. Okay, so we got good ideas from this. I think I still am not satisfied with the, I still feel like there's some obvious ideas that could be developed a little bit more. I think Chaim's and the price tag ideas are the closest we got to like developing chidushim, but I feel unsatisfied by that. Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.